times, right? Before, have you? No, you've never done a podcast before. Shut up. No, wait. Okay, look, it's been a long time. I mean, so much time has passed. There used to be a photo there. Okay, just breathe. First ever podcast. Just make something up. You're good at bullshitting. Yeah, you're good at that. All right? Let's go for it. Just do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all to the debut edition of the C-Section podcast. Oh, if it hasn't been a minute and a day, this is the very first time the C-Man is bringing you the C-Section uncooked, uncensored, and uncircumcised. Wait a minute. Uncircumcised, how can I spin that? Oh yeah, you know how you get like a cheap circumcision, right? It's a rip-off. Well, tonight you're not only getting your money's worth, but it's absolutely free. You're not paying for anything because we are coming to you from the tube of you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications because tonight, for the next hour and a half, Jimmy C's going to have a bit of a chinwag with the one and only voice of World Series Wrestling. He is the voice of Riot City Wrestling. He is the author, publisher, and he even turned the City of Evil into a freaking TV show. I'm talking about Shawnee, Shawnster, Fewster, tonight the C-Man, and Sean Fewster coming at ya. Woo! Angry Andy, take it away! Feels like old times, mate. The C-Section is back. Let's do the thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wrestling fans of all ages, it's time for the segment you've all been waiting for. Coming to you from self-isolation in an undisclosed location, it's time for the C-Section with Jimmy C!
I decided to get in the traditional C-section norm to keep things, at least a little bit like, nothing's going wrong in the world. Which
in
is,
theme. In theme.
Yeah, in theme. Even the Tiger, represented the Tiger King. I am the original, the OG Tiger King. I was repping this long before he was. It's weird because I don't think I've seen you since Danger Zone.
Yeah, that would be the last time.
That would be the last time, which was the 11th of March?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So it's been a while. And then everything just kind of went afterwards. It wasn't too long. How have you been coping with things, man? Like, how's it going on your end? Because I know you're a bloke who has his finger in a lot of pies.
Look, it's been really interesting.
Yeah.
Work-wise, I'm still at work. I'm still covering the courts for the advertiser. So I'm actually leaving the house every day, which is a bit of a weird situation to be in. Like, I'm not doing any sort of essential job or anything like that, but at the same time, I'm still out amongst it. And you're thinking about it. It's in the back of your head the whole time.
Oh, of course.
Why is that person over there coughing? What's going on over there? So I cover up, I mask up, I, wash my hands 15,000 times a day like I'm a fucking OCD case or something like that. I take all the precautions I can. I'm kind of glad to still be working because it gives me something to think about, something to do, distracts me a little bit from it all. Spending way too much money online, buying toys and comic books and things like that to keep myself interested.
We're just sort of doing that anyway. I mean, we've had to ixnay a lot of the toy hunts we were going to go on because they're unrealistic at this point that they're going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's how we...
It was supposed to be a toy fair today. We were supposed to be at a toy fair right now.
Kind of appropriate that we're doing it today then, because we would have caught up with the regular gang, Pontip, Daniel, Troy, so that's going to be weird. But I am sort of doing my own toy hunts as well, even though money's a little bit tight at the moment. Scrolling through eBay just to, it's stuff that I usually do. So I'm trying not to be like, okay, the world's ending, the sky is falling. Still keeping up with stuff that I'd normally do, but a little bit on a budget. So it's good that you're keeping your mind preoccupied. And that's a whole big reason why I started to do this. These sort of C-section Zoom interviews, wish I invested in Zoom and on the stock market right now, have a little bit of a...
I think we all did.
Oh, for sure. So many businesses right now are relying on this working from home. Obviously, you being with the advertiser, it's great knowing that you can still do stuff from home and not have to go out as much. But when you do, you keep your distance.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'll go to court of a morning and I'll sit through a case, and in the courthouse, they've actually got police tape up across all the seats marking out the 1.5 meters.
Yeah.
And they've got sheriff's officers and guards making sure everybody's following the social distancing guidelines. The cleaners are going through every 20, 30 minutes cleaning. So in terms of workplaces, it's about as safe as being at home, you know? It's just as clean, just as disinfected. And then instead of going back to the advertiser building to write stories, I'll actually come back to the house and sit at this very computer and write everything up. So yeah, there's a bit of a giggle in the thought that I'm writing about justice issues on a Spider-Man themed keyboard now.
Mate, that's the dream, isn't it?
Isn't it just? Isn't it just?
Right, look, hey, I'm even, as precaution, I have this on me at all times now.
Right.
This Dettol. It's in my bag. I think we're going to breed a lot of people out of this. A generation full of hypochondriacs. A lot of germaphobes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I keep saying to people is like, this is the end of the world as we know it, not in an apocalyptic, you know, mountains of fire sense, but like the world we knew is over. Whatever we come out of is going to be something different, and people are just going to be very different as a result. Like one of my big character things was I would always judge people based on how they shook my hand. You know, did they make eye contact? Were they sort of shying away from it? Whatever. We're not going to be doing that anymore, I don't think. Cool. Even after all this, you know, the first handshake, you know, that first mega powers handshake is going to be a very reluctant, recalcitrant thing on a lot of people's parts.
That 1.5 meter mega powers handshake is going to be the norm.
Maybe we can do it now. We can do it now over Zoom.
You ready?
This is where the power lies.
Yeah.
God, we're nerds.
Social distancing.
Such nerds.
But I saw something interesting pop up on your Instagram the other day. I want to touch on this. The craziness at the shops right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane and unwarranted, and it's unnecessary. There is no need for people to be spending the way they are, to bulk buy the way they are. That's been one of the big things of obviously toilet paper, hand sanitizer. It's very unnecessary. I went to the OTR the other night, just around the corner from mine, and they're stacking up the toilet paper, and they have a security guard. I never thought I'd see the day where people would be lining up for toilet paper like they were concert tickets.
Unbelievable.
It's insane. But you know, you went to the supermarket, you usually do a weekly shop, you said around about, you know, every week, fortnight. What was that like for you going into a supermarket? I know it sounds like a weird question, but it's one of those things where a supermarket trip is a big trip now. Getting out of there.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never made secret of the fact that I've got mental health issues as a result of my job, that I have anxiety issues and things like that. And walking through that kind of environment where it's not as controlled, where people aren't sort of watching what they're doing, is very frustrating. And it's a matter of trying to stop myself from overreacting. You know, you walk down an aisle and there's 3 or 4 people standing across the aisle blocking it, having a conversation. And you're like, well, I have to stand 1.5 meters back from you and wait until you clear out, or I have to say in a very loud voice, "Excuse me, please."
Yeah.
Now, I've got the benefit of being 6'5" with a shaved head and a beard, so people tend to move out of the way anyway. But when I stick on the red sunglasses and the black mask, they really get out of the way. But it is that mental static there. You're like, geez, you know, this is not a relaxing environment. This is everywhere we are right now has an element of personal risk to it, not danger, just personal risk. You know, you are literally taking your health in your hands when you step outside, and that's all of us. And trying to respond to that calmly rather than give into it and turn into a panic buyer, into a weirdo shopper, into somebody that's doing the wrong thing. The emphasis on self-control is pretty huge.
It's amazing. Like you said, it's not the end of the world in general. It's just the end of the world as we know it right now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are wishful thinking if they believe concerts and pubs and clubs and all this is going to open as soon as they say, oh, we've got 0 cases. It's going to be a very long time. And that does mean for us at RCW as well.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I was thinking about this today. Jesse Cosplay and I were talking about it, and we're, you know, saying, you know, if the restrictions start getting lifted, does that mean RCW moves to an AEW style product where we're sitting in there filming? Does it move to a product where we're filming a couple of matches a night and then it's being sent off to Haz and I to put our voices over in a separate environment later? Like, what's the actual steps? And the truth is just none of us know at this point.
No.
Nobody has any idea. The most idea we have, actually, this is something I've been saying to a few people. This is what we're all living in right now, is what it's like living in a newsroom when a story breaks. Every time you think you've crested the wave and you've got a handle on it, it all drops on you again. I worked September 11, that infamous day when the Twin Towers went down. And, every 4 to 5 minutes, we were scrapping the paper and rewriting the paper because everything was changing. Bang, 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 bang. This entire pandemic situation is the same thing. Just when you think you know what's happening, it all changes. It's like Roddy Piper writ large. Just when you think you know the answers, they're changing the questions on us. And, when Roddy does it, it's fun. When this happens, it's not so much fun at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it's a day-to-day thing. And you know what's even scarier than that? It's an hourly thing too, because
exactly,
businesses could be closed like that. And you don't know when that's going to come. Fortunately, South Australia, in the grand scheme of things, does have a very low rate compared to the rest of the world. You look at what's going on in America and New York. Obviously, it's a population-driven thing. But I think, like I said before, people are holding out hope for a quick fix. It's not the case. It's not.
No, it's not.
Over.
This is the new normal for at least the foreseeable future. I don't profess to have any special knowledge or insider info by virtue of my job. My personal guess is that August, September is the first time that we'll be able to look at easing any form of social restriction. And that's probably just in the form of, 4 or 5 people are allowed to now get together. And I don't think you'll see borders open on an international level until the new year. And then certain countries it won't be open to. I mean, America, sadly and tragically, is fucked right now.
Yeah.
It is so badly fucked right now. And the idea that anyone from America is going to be able to safely travel to another part of the world, or anyone from another part of the world is going to be able to safely travel to America prior to 2021 just seems like a pipe dream right now.
Yeah.
They just cannot get a handle on it. And that's tragic. It's so tragic.
And we look overseas and we look at the businesses that are affecting. One of the big stories that broke, obviously, it's going to be no secret throughout this entire talk. We are huge wrestling fans across the board, not just RCW, but we follow AEW as well as WWE. A lot of cuts were made yesterday from the roster, backstage, on screen, all sorts. Before we quickly touch on that, I wanted to talk about a bloke that we idolized, a bloke that we look up to, Howard Finkel, 69 years old, tragically passed away the other day. What was your sort of first memory of Howard, and how did he influence you? Obviously you've announced the not only World Series, Riot City Wrestling, and across the board, across all indie wrestling in the past. So what was Howard like as influence? Because I know for me personally, and I posted this on my Instagram, Jimmy_C_C-man, I was able to reflect on my memories as a kid, and and the following contest is scheduled for one fall. It's like, it's such an iconic voice, and you as a ring announcer must have been a big influence.
Look, absolutely. I've said it before. I knew from a very early age that as much as I loved wrestling, I was never going to ever be able to be a wrestler. Just my body is not one that lends itself to the hardships of the ring. So no matter what dreams I had of painting my face and putting on a headband and having tag team superstardom with Hulk Hogan, it was never, ever, ever going to happen.
Yeah, thanks for telling me that mine was the finest body Villiers could provide. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of my favorite calls from last year. I started gravitating toward, as you know, Gorilla Monsoon. You bought me that Gorilla Monsoon action figure. Still love it. Still up on display in the comic room. I gravitated particularly toward Mean Gene Okerlund, who was an idol for me in terms of how to not only present oneself publicly, but how to deal with a difficult interviewee. Like, I've actually found myself using Mean Gene witticisms in difficult interviews in journalism. So Mean Gene was an inspiration across the board. My first memory of Finkel is the first match I ever saw, because the first wrestling match I ever saw was Hogan Chic at the Garden, the night the Hulkamania was born. So I literally came in on the ground floor of Hulkamania. Now, so obviously Finkel called that.
This was an event that was on MTV at the time. John Cena talks about watching this back in 1984 on MTV. This is when wrestling, the rock and wrestling period, was really getting that kick, that push, obviously leading into the first WrestleMania, but continue because this was such an iconic moment as well.
It was. And I mean, Finkel called that, you know, he was the ring announcer. And I know that that was Finkel, but that's not my memory, my first memory of, oh my gosh, that's Howard Finkel and the way he announces things. I reckon probably my first full conscious memory of actually identifying it being Finkel was a title change. And it was probably Mania 3. It's probably Savage Steamboat. Yeah, Savage Steamboat. I reckon that's the first time I ever really sort of clicked in, because title changes weren't often in those days. You know, they certainly weren't hot potatoing the belt around. And hearing, you know, Steamboat's name announced, I think that's really the first time I clicked into, oh, that means something. You know, that moment has real gravitas. So in terms of Finkel and his influence on me, you and I have talked about this backstage a lot. I believe that I'm not there to be a persona in wrestling, a personality in wrestling. If I get to show some personality or some persona in what I'm doing, fantastic. But I'm not a character in the same way that a Steve Miller or a Tyler Daniels or a Rocky Monero is a character. I'm a mic stand with, you know, autonomy. So everything that I do should be giving toward shining the spotlight on the performer, the in-ring talent, making them look good, look evil, look bad, look sadistic, look healthy, look happy, whatever emotion needs to be
You're
conveyed.
the soundtrack.
The soundtrack, yeah, the garnish on the side dish, the spice, a little bit of extra spice on the meal, whatever. And so Finkel, I looked to him when I ring announced because big secret, I had a lot of trouble getting across ring announcing. Commentary was okay, no problems. Backstage interviewing was really easy. Calling the announcements in the ring was difficult for me. I had a very hard time getting my head around that. For the longest time, the late, great Josh Armour did all of that for Riot City. And I was like, great, fantastic, go for it. When Josh decided to take a leave of absence, it fell to me. And I was like, no, I don't want to, I can't do this. This is not me. So I simply would just default to Finkel. Anytime I didn't know what to do, how to call it, what order to call it in, I would just replay in my head. You think about it, it's a difficult thing. You know, now entering the ring at this height, at this weight, from this place, then where does the nickname go versus where does the title belt go? And which nickname do you use? And how long do you hold on which syllable? And how do you convey that this is a babyface, or how do you convey that this is a heel? Or what mood are you trying to set? So I just default to Finkel.
You're summarizing the character in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely. And you've got to give the audience a feel as well. This is the thing. Like something like World Series Wrestling taught me this. So many fans that come to World Series Wrestling are not going to necessarily know some of the local talent that travels from place to place. They might not even know all of the international talent. And someone like, say, a Jeff Cobb who comes in, and Jeff, was he a face? Was he a heel on this tour? You know, we didn't know. So when we found out, okay, Jeff's going to be working babyface, right? I need to convey to an audience that's not necessarily particularly familiar with Jeff Cobb that this is someone you want to cheer. So I've got to lighten my voice and I've got to be enthusiastic about the way I say it versus, you know, when Marty Skrull's working heel, I can't be excited to see Marty, even though I am. I have to lower my voice and drop it in a particular way so that
he's compared to the babyface who the crowd need to respond to in a positive light.
Exactly.
Manipulate, you know, the fans to go that certain way. I mean, obviously the fans are going to make up their own mind who they like and dislike. But if you're a part of that, again, going back to that word soundtrack, I think that's a really good word for it. You're able to convince them subconsciously that, hey, this is the guy that you need to cheer for and this is the guy that you need to boo. And they're able to
What you can do is you can present the presentation the way the promoter wants it. If the fans choose to go in a different direction, then a good promotion will bend with that, shape with that, twist with that, and go with it. There's nothing wrong with you as the promotion and as the voice of the promotion setting up the way that the booker wants it to be.
Yep.
But it's not on you to then keep forcing that line down the audience's throat unless the booker says, we're not shifting from this.
It's really a play when it comes to that. There's moving parts to it. You've got your main characters, you've got your side characters like myself and you. I manage Steve Miller, obviously in Riot City, commentator, announcer. You wear many hats there. So we are a piece of that puzzle that goes towards the bigger picture. And if we can help map that out and put those pieces together for the fan to make them easier to understand. So look,
and in my view, pecking order wise, you're more of a character than I am. You are a side ring talent, occasionally an in-ring talent. So therefore, my role in professional wrestling is a tertiary role to your role, just as your role is a tertiary role to Steve's. You're there to help Steve get over. I'm there to help you and Steve get over.
Absolutely.
So in terms of importance, what I may want or need as a character goes completely by the wayside for whatever is the need of the story, of the match, and of the characters who are above me on that pecking order. And that's again why I always point to Gorilla, Gene, and Finkel as three that I look to, because all three of those men made their careers by making it about someone other than them.
Yeah. I feel like that gets lost on a lot of people that are coming in, you know. I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to speak out of class when it comes to this sort of stuff, but fuck it, we're here. It's one of those situations where I look at it like, yeah, I'm a side character to Steve, maybe a little bit more important than you know, some certain below me, but at the end of the day, we're all moving pieces to make this show work. A lot of people will get lost on the fact that they may be a little bit more important than certain people, when really that you could take them out of the situation, but these guys are up here, they're going to be the ones that make you the money, you know? So at the end of the day, to do your job right is to help these guys look good and vice versa. You know, that their job isn't necessarily, to make you look how you need to look, because your job is to make them look good.
That's right. You know, at the end of the day, the business is about making money and putting on a performance. And the best advice is, if you make somebody a nobody, then you've beaten nobody.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the top heels and the top faces making sure they don't absolutely bury their opponents, so that therefore they've beaten nobody. If you just sit there and it's old wrestling wisdom. If you sit there and say, Jimmy C, I'm going to beat you up. You're nothing but a dirtbag. You're dirt beneath my heel. You're not even worthy of this title shot. I don't even know why I'm bothering with you. You're so terrible. You have absolutely zero to bring to the wrestling business. And then I win. I've beaten nobody.
Yeah.
So the same goes for everybody down the track. If I'm too busy trying to get myself over as an announcer or as a backstage interviewer and looking like I've got the smart aleck answer to the bad guy, what have I achieved? Nothing.
No. Yeah.
Nobody's paying to see me. They're paying to see the smart aleck heel who's going to get one over on me, because then, I want to see that guy get his. I'll give you a perfect example. After Tyler Daniels left commentary, you know, the night he went back into the ring and cut his promo, he dissed me from the ring and the crowd started chanting for me. Now, that was a very cool moment and I very much appreciated that. But I did nothing to get that reaction from the crowd, save and except do my job.
That's all that was needed to be done. Because if you take over that moment, the moment doesn't become about Tyler Daniels and Rocky Monero. It becomes about you.
Exactly.
Exactly. And
this is
a player in that scenario.
That's right. And this is a piece of advice I want to give to young people getting into the business. If I can do nothing but my job and get a pop from the crowd during a heel's promo simply because the heel mentioned my name, you just have to do your job. Just play your role, play your part in things. And that's what it's all about, moving pieces, as you said. In that moment, the character has to be fully engaged with what the heel's doing. So the heel has just, you know, called me a rumor monger, a fake newscaster, you know, crap. The crowd's cheering for me. The person inside is going, this is a pretty cool moment. Thank you, everybody. I'm really glad you all support me. The character is completely consumed by staring at Tyler Daniels and just like, oh, how dare you speak to me that way? Oh, I'm so hurt and offended right now. Because I can't just stand and go, yeah, look, everybody loves me. What a waste.
Yeah,
what a waste of that moment.
Your job is to project that onto the characters and the wrestlers, the most parts of the puzzle. And luckily for me, you know, on occasion, I've been able and fortunate enough to be, you know, sort of the centerpiece of that, you know, when I was doing the general manager stuff, you know, when me and Steve had the tag match with Benjamin Rosenthal and Havoc a few months ago back in December. which I was thinking about the other day, seems like eternity ago with what's going on at the moment. A big thing for me when I was first getting in, and it goes back to how we were talking about, us helping each other and us, wanting to help the people coming up, was yourself, Wolf Dog, and Josh. The late great Josh Armour. Sadly, he's no longer with us. When you guys were able to sort of take me under your wing, it's very naive, very, very naive. And I didn't understand it. So it was important for me to have you guys there to show me this is how to do things. And that really helped me a great deal. What was someone that when you first came in that really helped you out? I mean, you mentioned Josh before, but was there anyone else sort of behind the scenes coming into RCW where you'd owe them, not necessarily owe them, but, like to thank for, that whole process and you getting into this? Because I know, like me, you used to watch it as a kid, you sort of never thought you'd be a wrestler, but you wanted to be involved somehow.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It begins with Josh Armour. Josh reached out to me after an article that I wrote in the newspaper about wrestling and invited me onto the Wrestle Radio Australia podcast. We had a fantastic chat for the podcast. And at the end, he said, hey, they're looking for another commentator. Maybe you should come give it a try. And then from there, it's Todd Eastman, because Todd and Josh sat me down, smartened me up, explained what I needed to do. And if you go back to that very first event that I called, I am doing my best Gorilla Monsoon impersonation. I'm not copying his mannerisms, but I'm copying his cadence and everything, because that to me was what I needed to aim for.
That's the norm. That's the norm.
That's the default. If you can, because I'm of that earlier generation, I don't look at Jim Ross and see the default. I look at Gordon Soley, I look at Gorilla Monsoon, I look at those guys and say, that's the default. That's what I need to be aiming for right there. So without Todd, without Josh, I wouldn't have any ability that I have right now. And then I was so blessed that Wolf Dog came on board so soon after, and Josh and I became a 3-man booth, because he took me to that next level. I wouldn't have had enjoyed the success to branch out to other promotions without Wolf Dog tag teaming with me and turning me into a better play-by-play announcer, a better color announcer, a better babyface announcer. So those three are essential. And you can't go past the Bassos for giving me the opportunity in the first place. Matt and Chris Basso literally wouldn't be there without the two of them saying, yeah, we like what you're doing. Come on, keep doing more. And both of them have been great in terms of taking me aside, smartening me up to different aspects of the business, telling me what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what I need to add to it. Rocky Monero is a fantastic source of information for all of that, because the man just gets it. He just gets it, from booking through move sets, through moments. He just absolutely gets it. And then
touch on Rocky for a sec. A lot of people think that the way he delivers and the way he can provide feedback and positive criticism is he's an arsehole. I think that's the complete wrong way to look at it. And I think that sort of separates the people that get this and the people that don't. If you can take on board what he says as feedback and he's just trying to help in his own way, then you'll go somewhere. If you don't, then you need thicker skin.
Yep, agreed. And then moving outside of Riot City, Adrian Monero at World Series Wrestling for giving me the opportunity to do World Series Wrestling. And this is going to be a controversial one in a lot of people's minds, but Austin Aries. Austin Aries has been, such a great guy. And a lot of people don't, but Austin Aries has been intrinsic to my career. You talk about the person who didn't have to take the time to stop and help you with something. Yeah. The first time we did World Series, Aries came and found me backstage afterwards and said, well done on tonight. Here's what you need to do next time. And then the next time, 6 months later, we did World Series again. He came back and he said, I'm glad you listened to me. Here's what you need to do for next time too. And so through his feedback, I was able to reach that next level of ring announcing and sort of move away from just being shit, what would Howard Finkel do, to this is what Sean Fewster would do in this situation. And through his involvement, I was able to actually be involved, again, very much in that light flavoring sense with some of the stuff that happened in World Series. I've had little moments with Aries. I've had little moments with Marty Skrull. I've had little moments with Bandito. Had a really funny moment with Joey Janela, things like that in the ring. One of the best moments in my career, getting to share the ring with Cody Rhodes and Joey Ryan when they did a staring contest for the IWGP United States Championship. I mean, just saying that sentence is insane. Like,
This is
but
why
I got to be,
wrestling.
isn't it great? But I got to be part of that because I had learned from Josh, from Wolf Dog, from Todd, from the Bassos, from Rocky Monero, from Aries, from all of those people, and made myself into the sort of ring announcer that could be plugged into that situation and be trusted. You know, Joey and Cody said, well, here's what we're going to do. Announce it however you see fit.
Yep.
Shit. So two of the top talents in the world have just said to me, do it however you want. So the first thing I do is I go running to Adrian. Adrian, they've told me to do what I want. What do you want me to do? And Adrian's response was, whatever you want. So to be handed that level of trust by the talent and the promoters means that all those men that trained me, all those men that taught me, I'd listened to what they had to say, I'd taken it on board, and I'd become a better performer as a result of it. So that's the crew that I owe it to, quite seriously. And I mean, then you look at the fact that you and I have had so much fun working together. Tyler Daniels and I ran the booth for a year, and that was some of the best commentary I think I've ever done in my life. And now Luke Hazard and I are getting to do things. You learn something from everybody you work with, no matter whether you're the supposed senior person or the junior person. Yeah, wrestling's always a two-hander.
And with wrestling as well, you need to constantly be learning. You can never be complacent. No matter your level of experience in the business, whether you've had a year or 20 years, if you're not constantly taking new information on board and adapting, you need to get out.
That's
because
right.
And I mean, thing is when the day that this isn't going to be fun for you anymore.
And I mean, we're in shoot here, so I can say this. You know, you and I will talk for hours on end about character, storyline development, things like that.
Absolutely.
Tyler Daniels and I will do the same thing. Andy and I will do the same thing. This is the way it should be. I've been made a better performer by all these people, like someone like Andy. Okay, so Andy's brand new in the business, so to speak. You know, he's just getting his feet wet as a ring announcer. He's facing all those same earlier things and earlier lack of self-confidence and moments that I was facing when I used to default to Finkel. We did the Fringe show together, and he came up to me and he's like, here's my idea for the intro. And I listened to that and I went, I would not have expected you to come up with this. This is great. Let's workshop this together so that it becomes of both of us. And it was a phenomenal experience. You know,
it's that collaboration and bouncing back and forth with one another that I enjoy the most myself as well. Like with the whole Team Sassy skits that we did, like the Managed at First Sight stuff, an idea that was born out of me just watching telly and thinking, all right, who can I bring on with this? All right, I mentioned it to Chris Basso and he loved it. You know, I'll go on record saying that he's even said he's a Jimmy C mark, so I'm always going to hold that against him. But he told me, you know, you and Steve Miller are going to be doing this thing, and Steve and I we weren't friends, we were acquaintances at best. He was a little bit, you know, unsure of himself. He knew that he wanted to wrestle. He knew that he wanted to do the best that he could, but he didn't have a character, you know, and Steve will admit that himself. He had nothing. He was the guy from South Africa. He still is the guy from South Africa, but he's the guy who comes out to entrances of Circle of Life. He's the guy who comes out to Toto Africa. He's the guy who does all this stuff now because we were able to get an idea of, you know, what makes you tick, what stuff are you into, and we were able to put that all together and create what we did. And one of the first guys, obviously, I brought on board was you, because you were able to not only bring your personality to it, you were able to bring your creative input as well. And it wasn't a sense of, that's crap, we should get rid of that. It was, yeah, that's a good idea, but what if we do it this way? And it's a lot along the lines of what you said with Andy. Just to go back a little bit with Aries as well, wanted to touch on this while we brought him up. The thing that impressed me about Aries the most, we did an interview with him for a local radio station here in Adelaide when World Series was happening for that very first time. After the show, he came up to every single person that was packing down the ring, whether they were our own crew, whether they were other guys that had come in to help out. He shook their hand and said, thank you for busting their ass.
Yep.
He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that with you either. So to me, anyone that says he's a jerk, I laugh in their face because they have no idea what kind of guy that he actually is. And I met him for a brief time. I'm not going to pretend I'm his best mate or anything like that. Obviously, you have a close relationship with him at the moment. But that really impressed me about him. So that was really fantastic. But back to the creative side of things. How have you found as an announcer what you can do to influence, not necessarily influence a storyline, influence, you know, a character, but pretty much everything in the terms of when you're out there, what is your goal? What is your goal? How do you separate Sean Fewster, the guy from the advertiser, with Sean Fewster, the guy in the wrestling world? Because I know you've gone on record and saying that you can't be a heel objectively now. That's right. Because you do have your commitments with the advertiser. So how have you found that challenge?
Well, you mean when most of the people I get along with are playing heels?
Mm-hmm. when you're in a room full of heels and you've got to be the only babyface.
So what, like life, really? No.
Like life, yeah.
Look, it's been interesting. I don't know that my job is about influence. Beyond what I sort of said about making sure that the presentation is the way the presentation is meant to be. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'll tell a story about when it's about influence. It's only about influence when the booker or the talent tells you, I need this influence this way. There isn't and there shouldn't be a level of autonomy in an announcer, in a commentator. Commentator, announcer should never ever go into business for themselves and think, I need to get this across. It's, what do you as the talent want me to get across tonight? What do you as the booker want me to get across tonight? Mm. The free will comes with how I execute that command, not the command itself. So I, for example, would never decide, let's again use Marty Skrull for an example. I would never decide, oh, this crowd's hot for Marty, I'm going to portray him as a babyface in my commentary despite the fact I've been told he's the heel tonight. No, can't do that. That's not my job. That's not my place. If I get a buzz in the ear that says, double turn, let Marty be the babyface, I'll obviously change it. But I don't think that I should be making those decisions unilaterally because that just messes the product up. Something like, however, when a long-running character is going to make an allegiance turn. The example I'll give is Adam Brooks. Years back, when Brooksy was one of the top heels in Riot City, he was running with Todd Eastman and he was running with Chris Basso at the time, and they were Team Eastman. The decision was made that Brooksy was going to turn babyface, and he wasn't sure that it was going to work because he had been a dickhead heel for so long. So when I knew that that was the plan, I would start seeding my anti-Brooksy commentary with little moments of, oh, gee, I actually respect his decision there. Oh, you know, he could have gone for the cheap way there, but he actually chose the noble way. Or just little bits and pieces, seeding it for the couple of months and couple of shows leading up to the full-fledged babyface turn. And then when the full-fledged babyface turn came, it was, Adam Brooks has impressed me. He's finally done, you know, he's showing the pride of his potential. This is the man he could have always been. Thank goodness he's done that, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not about influencing what I think it should be. It's about how to execute the grander vision.
You were able
so nobody told me to, you know, slow turn, slow burn the whole thing with Brooksy. I decided to do that because I was told what the plan was.
Absolutely. You were able to just follow along with the story. And it goes back to me saying, how would you react in that moment? You don't necessarily have to know how everything's going to go. I mean, if you have a general idea of, like, okay, this guy's going to be turning babyface very soon, let's sort of paint that picture. You don't need to know every single inner working. I think it's, me personally, and I haven't done commentary a lot. In fact, the only time that we've ever worked together was, you know, the last RCW show, ironically, that we had. And we've had it once or twice before, Danger Zone. And the thing I found was I don't need to know, I need to know the characters, I need to know their story, but as far as what's going to happen in the match, unless they want to come to me and say, hey, look, we want you to put this over specifically, I like to call it like a shoot. I like to call it like, okay, this is happening. I know this character and how are they going to react in this moment?
Mm.
and they're going to show me how they're going to react. And it's our job as commentary, more so your job, because I don't do it as frequently, to portray that. I think you've done obviously a fantastic job. Obviously being invited to do World Series and being with RCW as long as you have, it's really a testament to how good you are. And the funny thing is, you were able to give me a lot of great advice to, for me personally, to take on board a lot of my aspects of my character. Again, going back to, this isn't bad, but this is how we could improve it. And if you're able to chip that in with other, stories here and there, not necessarily, okay, I want to be the booker, but I think I can provide, an assistance. If you take it on board, that's your decision. If you don't, then again, that's fine as well. So I
look at it this way, storytelling is my life. That's what I do for a living. I've always told stories as a child. I'm paid to tell stories about very complicated things, very fraught things, very difficult things in people's lives. If I can offer up any advice on how to execute and someone's willing to listen to me, whether they take that advice on board or not, that's great. I'm just grateful to be able to offer something when I'm asked for it. And I don't pretend to know a lot about wrestling. I mean, I'm fortunate that I've had some experiences with wrestling that a lot of people haven't done. I mean, I've lived backstage at WWE. I've lived backstage at World Series Wrestling. I've lived backstage at Riot City. There's lots of things that I've done that are beyond the normal ken of a local independent wrestling commentator. But that doesn't mean I know shit. I've seen shit and I can tell you about it and what I think as a result. Doesn't mean I know anything. Yeah. Also, the number one thing, I've never worked a match in between those ropes, ever. So therefore, any knowledge I have, any opinion that I have, anything I want to offer up is worth exactly 3/5 of fuck all compared to somebody who stepped through those ropes and run them. So, when I say that my role is tertiary, I mean tertiary,
But it's that level of experience of calling big matches and being around some of the, the biggest names, Australian and the world has sort of, seen step in those ropes. So your opinion isn't totally invalid, No,
but it's when I offer it. That's the
when
difference.
Yeah. And whether or not they take it on board is their decision.
That's right. Exactly.
It could be a good thing and a bad thing. I think for me,
I have lots of shit opinions too. Let's be honest. I have lots of crap opinions that nobody should be listening to. So I'm certainly not holding myself up as some kind of genius here.
The fact that you think Batman and Robin isn't a good movie, I think that's speaks for itself. It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Yes, absolutely. That's completely a judgment call upon which everyone should be basing their opinions on. Yes, my opinion of Bat Nipples.
Yeah, definitely, mate. If you don't like Bat Nipples, you're in the wrong business. I think the best thing that about our relationship and the way that we sort of formed it, again, obviously being around wrestling, that's what we started to talk about initially. But I got a few things beside me here that that we really grew our friendship over, and that's these things right here.
Hey, I was worried what you were going to pull out then.
What's that? Sorry.
I was worried what you were going to pull out then.
Oh, well, that's later. A different type of video. Wrestling figures. Now, obviously, yeah, we did bond over wrestling, but we found out that we were right into these. You have to say a lair or a dungeon would be an understatement. You have one of the best collections that I've ever seen. Even behind you, it's all around your house, and I've had the honor of being invited into your place before. Yeah, all behind you, all the comics, all the pop vinyls. Sorry about that. I think the thing about our relationship is that it stemmed from wrestling, but it's grown more as time goes on. And it's a shame that we can't go on these toy hunts anymore, but we're still able to discuss and talk about our favorite wrestling action figures, stuff that we liked as kids. I was surprised how well we clicked when it came to eras of wrestling. Yeah. And I want to get your take on that, as far as when we sort of spoke for the very first time and found out. I did watch Hogan. I did watch Macho Man. I did watch Roddy Piper. I watched all these guys from tapes. So seeing someone like me come in, because the age difference is, I don't want to burst your bubble, it's about 20 years.
I'm old enough to be your father. You're
old enough to be my father. That's going to be a plot twist. So how important is it for you? How important is it for you when guys, again, don't want to blow smoke up my own ass here, but guys like me, guys like Matt Hader, who come in and just get it, you sort of gravitate towards those people. So how important is it for you to sort of take them under your wing and provide them as much advice as you can?
Look, I'll offer my opinion to pretty much anybody who asks it. And I don't think that there is such a thing as a stupid question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is such a thing as a bad question. And I don't think there's such a thing as asking the same question too many times, to an extent.
Yeah.
But if I can be beneficial to somebody, if what I've experienced can help somebody else out, I'll definitely offer it up, because I just want, it's not even wanting the product to be good. I'm wanting people to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
We do this for love. Nobody's making millions of dollars off of independent wrestling, except for Joey Ryan.
Yeah.
So, we've got to do this for the love of it, for the fun of it. And when we're all enjoying ourselves, then that's what it should be about. Like, you have told me the number of times you sat there with your action figures making up figure feds. You had complete cards of different matches and stuff like that. And you had this Byzantine continuity in your head of who was wrestling who and how belts had changed hands and everything with your wrestling action figures. Now, I never did that because I was of an earlier generation in terms of playing with wrestling toys, where it was bashing them together and having some fun.
Mm-hmm.
But again, stories keep me going. And the idea that everybody involved is going to be enjoying themselves, working their hardest, putting their most in, is what absolutely gets me going when it comes to wrestling.
Definitely.
I set up all of my LJNs at one point, those big rubber figures you were talking about, set them all up for a photograph for my Instagram. And as I'm sitting there, I'm looking, I'm going, okay, well, this character here, this particular wrestler is kind of like this person in Riot City, and this person is this person, seeing those archetypal links and things like that. I've told you before that you are the Jimmy Hart of Riot City, for example.
This guy?
That guy. I like seeing those comparisons. I like trying to be the Mean Gene of Riot City Wrestling, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether you're into the same era of wrestling or whether you're into a different era of wrestling from me, there's going to be something we can talk about. Like, I don't believe in gatekeeping. I don't think that because I watched wrestling earlier than somebody else, I therefore know more about it. Like, if you can't talk to me about Piper Snooker and the coconut, get the fuck out. Or if you don't know what the Road Warriors did with the spike to Dusty's eye, then I'm not interested in talking to you. Because there are people who get into wrestling so much later for so many different reasons. Like right now, there's a renaissance of people for whom Eddie Guerrero is to them what Hulk Hogan was to me. I think that's brilliant. I think it's amazing. I love
not a bad person to study too.
Changes. Yeah. One of my favorite questions when I meet someone in wrestling is, what match got you into wrestling? Not as a dick measuring contest, not as a I've been around it longer than you contest, but because I'm legitimately interested. What was it that made you want to get into this business?
What gravitated you towards this bizarre
Yeah, what was it
thing?
Yeah, the thing that shattered the glass in your brain and said, this is what I want to do. Like, I love that question. And every answer is different. And I've asked that of the big stars as well that I've worked with at World Series. It's just my icebreaker question.
I love how you said glass shattered, because ironically, Stone Cold, he is my guy. I love
I said it.
I went for I see what you did there. Oh God, it's been a while since I've done that. Oh, it's been good. Stone Cold, Undertaker, Triple H, The Rock. I came in at the tail end of the Attitude Era, but I also was able to go to the video shop, rent tapes, and then when those video shops closed down, I bought those tapes. I still have them to this very day. So it became an obsession for me. It became a huge part of my life. You're someone who's wrestling that is a part of their lives, but you also have a lot of other outside interests. Like, we've talked about Batman, as we just mentioned. Hopefully one day we can finally have that discussion on who's the best Batman. I still reckon it's Val Kilmer. Batman forever. That's my guy. Another thing too is obviously you worked on a huge project, City of Evil. It was a big thing. And guess what I've got here today? Because luckily enough, I was able to find this of the book that you gave me at your premiere, which I was lucky enough to come along to. I'm going to read you what you wrote. So, Jimmy, Jimster, Seaman, Seaster, thanks for being my best foil, a guy who I could ask for and have. I'm horrible at cursive and have had huge support from in the past. To my friend Sean, mate, that was something that I stumbled across yesterday. When you were working on that show, because it was a huge project, did you think it would blow up as much as it did? Because it did take over TV for that 4 weeks. It was what everyone was talking about. It was a level that, yeah, you did have the book, but for that month, that was the hottest thing on TV.
Yeah, I didn't expect it at all. Like the thing that told me that it had gone beyond my belief was when they told me that they were preempting the 4th episode for the NRL final because they didn't want to counter program it again. Like they had to give the NRL that slot. So they would prefer to actually hold my episode over for a whole week rather than put it on after the grand final because they didn't want to waste the ratings. The idea that the show was that valuable to Nine that they would actually do that just made me go, okay, wow, that is seriously something. No, I never expected it to be as big as it was. And I'll be honest, I didn't even hope for it to be as big as it was. I'm weird in the way that I accomplish things. I'm very much a tick list guy. So wrote a book, tick, done. Doesn't matter whether it's successful or not, I wrote it.
Done it.
Commentated for wrestling, tick. Doesn't matter whether or not I made $1 million, I got to do it. So made a TV show, tick, that's great. Whatever happens, happens. Wait a minute, what do you mean it's the #1 rating show in the country? Holy crap. So that was an insane period in my life. And the thing was, it had started so much earlier for me because Daniel was my co-pilot on all the stuff to do with the TV show. He was there for all the filming. He was there for the script editing. He was there for all of the ups and downs for it. So we spent all these months doing that, working on that. And then it just all goes quiet. We couldn't tell anybody, couldn't tell you, couldn't tell anybody what was going on, what was going to happen. And then finally one day in September, it's like, oh, by the way, I've got a TV show and it's on in a fortnight's time. And everyone's
I will never forget you bringing me into the office at RCW and telling me the news. He said, I'm so sorry I had to keep this from you. Jed Hago, I was like, mate, couldn't be more proud of you. And to know that it was going to debut at a prime time slot as well, heavily promoted. And it's real too. The big thing that you told me is that you didn't want those, I'll use Dark Side of the Ring as an example. You know, obviously there's going to be a lot of wrestling fans watching this. They have a reenactments. You didn't want that. You thought it was very important to get real newspaper clippings, real news reels, people that are involved in the case. Everything was real and presented authentically. So that was, I thought, a very cool aspect. You see a lot of these crime investigation shows where, yeah, they do have actors come in and sort of play it out. What was your decision behind that, and why was that so important?
Just because until Dark Side, I hadn't seen a decent reconstruction, a decent reenactment. They were always so horrifically overblown, and knives flying in a way, and an arc of blood spraying, and they were all really horrible, C-list movie style boneyard match pieces of crap. Ooh, did I say that out loud? So they were all really bad reenactments, and they cheapened it and they sensationalized it. So I said flat out, I do not want that. Having now watched Dark Side, there's clearly a way to do it. Those little interstitials that they have with no faces are quite well done, and they're quite tasteful. The Nancy and Daniel Benoit murder episodes in particular were very well done, straddling that line between what needed to be shown and what would have been too much to show. So I thought they were great. But at the time, there was no Dark Side to look at and compare and point to the production company and say, you can do that, but no more than that. So it was better to just simply say no. And also, I'm not a TV guy. I'm a journalist. So if I have a TV show, I want it to be journalism. I want it to be the court documents, the photographs, the people, not recreations.
Yeah. And that's very very different from what else is out there, because you do have those shows that will go way overboard with it, where it takes you out of it. It doesn't present itself as serious. It makes it seem like it's a movie, rather than when I watched that first episode you did on the Troy murders. You could see the crime photos, you could see the interviews these guys had in real life, and that's what made it go, oh, this actually happened, as opposed to, did this really happen? What am I watching? Just another episode of NCIS, you know, but just a very bad remake. So I thought that was fantastic in the way that you presented it. And you mentioned before, you've ticked off wrestling announcing, wrestling commentating, writing your own book, having your own TV show, all these sort of things. Now I know it's difficult to sort of map out what's next in this very, very challenging time, very weird time. What do you think's next for you? What do you think is something that you need to do before it's all said and done?
I know exactly what's next. What is next is already in train.
Ooh.
It's happening. It's Daniel and I once again, which should surprise absolutely nobody that follows my Instagram or my Twitter. We know exactly what we're doing next and where we're going with it. It's just that the global pandemic situation has put it on pause. Had it not been for this global pandemic, everyone would already know what was next. But the great thing about what we've got planned is that the pandemic will only ever put it on a pause. So even if it now doesn't happen until 2021 instead of 2020, that's cool. Just gives us more time to get it ready. Again, to circle back to where we began, I'm not doing a life-threatening job. I'm not doing something on the front lines of this pandemic. I'm incredibly blessed and fortunate that my life is not as disrupted as so many people's. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because it means that I can direct my empathy and my support and my finances toward helping those who do need it. And if that means that some of my stuff has to go on the back burner for a while, that's really a small problem to have. You know, so many people have it so much worse right now. If it just means that my next project has to be delayed, that's nothing to complain about. That's just, okay, that can wait a little bit.
It will happen. It will happen. And I don't even want to know what it is yet, because I'm like a lot with wrestling. I like surprises. And I know...
Well, you see, my colleague in this endeavor is larger than me and more muscular than me and more capable of damaging me than I'm even capable of damaging myself, despite what my ankle would tell you. So I have to keep it stum because he's told me to keep it stum.
Okay, you touched on the ankle. I'm going to have to bring it up. There was an incident where you went above and beyond the Call of Duty. So I'll put you over before I knock you back on there. An incident before an RCW show began.
Yep.
Could you take us through how this ended up taking you to the emergency room?
Oh, God. Okay, so Dark Days 2017.
Truly was.
The main event was a hardcore war. I know Grim was in the main event. I can't remember who else was in the main event. There you go, Zach and Grim. And I'm on my way to the show, and Juzzy pulls us up. Juzzy drives to the shows because I'm already in my head thinking about what's going on. We get out of the car, park alongside the Latvian Hall at Wayville, and I realize, we get out of the car, we walk a bit, and then I realize I've left something in the car that I need. So I'm sliding sideways, traveling left to right, facing the back of the car to open the back of the car. I missed the curb with my right foot and fell. Somehow, I managed to break my left ankle. To this day, I look back and I'm not entirely certain how, whether I used the curb as like a fulcrum point, whether I snapped the ankle like a ruler over the corner of a desk. I'm not quite sure what I did. And I fell and I hit the ground and I yelled out, obviously. And Jessie turns around and says to me, "Have you broken your leg?" And I went, "How the fuck do I know?" Then there was a moment's pause and she said, "I'm going to go get the boys." I said, "Okay." So she ran inside, and Matty Basso and Daniel and Nick Armstrong and a few others came out and bodily picked me up and carried me inside the venue. checked me out. And one of the great things about getting injured around wrestlers is pretty much everybody's a personal trainer / sports physiotherapist. So everybody knows how the body works.
They're across it.
And Nick Armstrong takes one look at me and says, mate, you're fucked. You're done. So I hobble back to the car, get in the car, Jesse drives me to the emergency room. Now, Josh and Wolfie were going to be on the call with me that night, and I'm messaging them back and forth, and eventually the decision's made. I don't know how long I'm going to be. Just start the show without me. I'll let you know how I'm going. They check me out at the hospital and they say to me, look, Sean, you've got some fractures in your ankle. We can't really tell exactly what's going on until we get you in for full x-rays and stuff, which we can't do tonight. The best we can do is give you some painkillers, splint you up, and send you on your way. To which I respond, well, that means I can go finish the show, right? And they said, oh, well, I suppose, if you're not going to be getting in and out of the ring or anything, yeah, splint me up. So they splinted me up, dosed me full of painkillers, and we headed back for the show. And I messaged Josh on the way and say, I'm going to miss the first match, but I'll be there for the second match. Intro me. So Josh goes, okay, no worries. So I get there and I'm on crutches and I'm on giant moon boot, and they pass me a microphone backstage. And Josh, who was sort of healing it at that point, and Wolfie, who was full heel, having a discussion over the house mics. Oh, you might have noticed it's just the two of us tonight. That's because Sean Fewster had an accident in the car park, and he's not going to be here tonight, and blah, blah, blah. We can do what we want. And I just crutched my way out on stage and just stood there for a minute and just let it soak in. The crowd popped massively. First pop I'd ever received, which was great. And I just held the microphone up and said to Josh, oh, you wish I wasn't here. And the whole crowd cheered. Wolfie put me over I can't believe he's back here. This man's got a broken ankle and he's here commentating. Rah, rah, rah. Yeah, you think it was the second coming of Shawn Michaels or something. So I then proceeded to almost fall down the staircase trying to get down to the commentary booth because I had no idea how to steer the crutches. Plus, I'm absolutely out of my head at that point on painkillers. So I get down to commentary and we proceed to call the rest of the night, which led to the rumor going around backstage that it was a work, not a shoot, and I was actually okay. So halftime comes and Wolfie and Josh had to help me backstage. And everyone's like, oh, it's a shoot. I'm like, yeah, it's a shoot. I've broken my ankle. I don't know how badly
We decided to change the script. The lead commentator for the babyface side is broken his ankle. It's like, oh, okay, that's an angle. We were able to get a moon boot and a crutch pretty quickly and not tell you guys.
Exactly.
I love how no matter what in wrestling, you still have that skeptic side of you that goes, is this a work? Is this a shoot? Yeah. You just don't know. You don't know. It's brilliant.
So we did the second half and Jen and I went out and did the raffle. And there I am hobbling around. And I was funny as a fit that night. Like, if you go back and watch the commentary for Dark Days 2017, it's the most sarcastic, hilarious, over-the-top cutting I've ever been because I was high, baby. I was so high. And Wolfie and Josh carried me. Like, they did all the hard work. I'm just jumping in like Stadler and Waldorf on the fucking Muppet Show with just the witticisms, and I'm probably not even half as funny as I think I was. I'm just out of it. And we finished the night and it all went well. And then, of course, as we always do at Riot City, the baby faces go around the ring and say goodnight to the audience. And I'm walking around and one fan leans over and he goes, hey, Sean, great work. And I just looked at him and went, eyeballs bugging out of my head, it's a shoot, motherfucker. Which was when Big Brody Marshall went, come on, Sean, let's go backstage. I'm like, yep, okay.
At that point, it starts to turn into Weekend at Sean's.
That was a pretty cool thing. And it made my reputation interstate because so many people said, I can't believe you commentated on a broken ankle. I'm like, yeah, it's not like Kurt Angle competing with a broken freaking neck.
Your voice
it's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some people that know me interstate purely as the commentator that broke his ankle and still did the match, and I'm okay with that.
Mate, that's a good rep to have. I love it every time that we're out, with Daniel, Pontiff and Troy. We're just walking down the street, maybe with Steve or something like that. We say, oh, well, there's a curb. Be careful. Or you do that that fine thing where you may walk on the side of the street, and there was an instance at the Glenelg, which is still in my mind. There was an instance at Glenelg street markets, and you go around a tree, and Daniel's just like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? You've got to go around a tree on the curb.
Stand on this side of me, he says.
You were about a week or a day or two before you actually had surgery on it, though, at that point. So you were risking it a little bit.
At the point of that time, yeah. Because the thing about my ankle was, and not a lot of people know this story outside of our immediate circle, but so I went and saw a surgeon immediately after the injury and was told, look, no idea how bad it is at the moment. We need to let the swelling go down. We'll assess it as time goes on. And then I said, well, we've got a family trip planned to Japan in September, October. And this is something we've been waiting for forever. I don't want to cancel this. We're going to lose all the money. So the surgeon says, all right, we'll get you rehabbed, and we'll get you rehabbed to the point where you can actually get to Japan. When you get back from Japan, we'll sort out the injury. No problems. Rehabbed like a demon, went to Japan, came back, and the surgeon goes, it's fine. It's an ankle. It will heal itself. That's what ankles are designed to do. You'll be in discomfort for a little while. Okay. So think about everything I've done since then. You've got all of the rest of the Riot City dates. You've got pretty much the bulk of the World Series Wrestling dates in that time. You've got the book. You've got the TV show. You've got the radio show. You've got my normal journalistic things. Everything else we're doing. Lots of interstate travel. All the comic conventions I'm doing with Jussie, things like that. And it's not getting any better. So 2.5 years later, I speak to a different orthopedic surgeon who does all the scans and everything and says, you have a catastrophic injury. Your ankle is actually no longer connected to the rest of your body and hasn't been connected to the rest of your body since that night. I had torn every ligament, every tendon. I had effectively chopped my foot off. The only reason it was still on my body was because my skin was around it. So I've been walking on a broken ankle for 2.5 years. So they're like, you need to have surgery, and you need to have surgery immediately. So like you say, we all went to that toy fair, and I was a week off actually finally having the surgery. So I think my attitude was a little bit, can't make it worse. Like,
what have you got to lose at that point? Your foot?
it's literally hanging off my body as we speak. There's not a lot more I can do to it. Yeah. But so now that I've had the surgery, I'm at the point where I'm in the heavy rehab, and it's going really well. And yesterday, for example, I actually walked the entire square mile of Adelaide. I did all 4 terraces, which I'm really proud of. You know that. And speaking of Danny, he sent me this message this morning based on the fact that I did that walk. Soon you'll be stronger than the resentment and disdain of a Centrelink's claims queue, faster than an Uber Eats cyclist, and able to leap tall gutters in a single bound. Although that last one we're going to leave off for a while yet before we attempt it, you know, just in case.
He's a sarcastic bastard, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you're the one that wanted to buy me a cane at the bloody Glenelg Street Market.
Yes. You know what? I could have customized that cane for you, put some Dimenties on it, really lavish it up. That would have been brilliant. Give you a little bell on the side. I think you would have been more fucking annoying than you are now. But
you know, the great thing about that first injury was that it lent so much to your run as GMC.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got so much mileage out of calling me a cripple and going on about disabled car parking and stuff like that. It gave you so much rich heel material to work with to do that whole Bobby Heenan, Mean Gene / Gorilla Monsoon bounce thing that we did for so long. Like, so everything can be used in wrestling. All parts of the buffalo get used.
And it's funny that you mentioned Dark Days as well. With that happening to you with your ankle, that was the night that I actually started the GM run, the campaign, when I came out with the big sign, when I had Kurt Barron with me at the time, who just quickly freaking, you know, guy's got a lot of potential, hopefully big things with him one day, literally and figuratively. He's holding the sign, and Hammer came back, Brad Smythe was out there. So for you to say that, like, it did really, really help me in my whole GM run when you had the moon boot and, you know, Cripple Fuey, all that sort of stuff. It was brilliant time. And we were able to, and a lot of people didn't know that we were actually mates outside of that, and we'd always collaborate on that. And for us to take that and then turn it into a babyface thing, we were telling that story on the side as well. Big part I love about wrestling is the layers, stories. What was your go-to story whenever you think of wrestling? Whether it's WWE, RCW, when you think of wrestling, this is your favorite story that was told.
Oh, rough question.
Or one that stands out.
Yeah, look, I've got to be honest, in terms of a long feud that has lots of different layers to it and just really hit on every level for me, it would be Punk Cena.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few stories that have been told in our business that are as good as that one is, particularly from a mainstream company. Everything from Punk taking over the Nexus and dropping the pipe bomb through to the final match on the Raw before WrestleMania, which should have damn well been the WrestleMania main event. They were robbed.
Yeah.
The ebb and flow in that, the layers it exposed in Cena's character, the different levels to which Punk took it, the ability to involve Del Rio, The Miz, Kevin Nash, Triple H, pull in other people, AJ, Lee, Daniel Bryan, Kane. It just spread out in so many different areas and came back in so many different ways. And, you know, that was what led to Triple H deposing Vince McMahon for a while as leader of the company and things like that. Yep. There was the great Raw that opened with everybody on strike except for Triple H. And then Cena, Sheamus, and Punk came out. And, you know, Punk was on commentary, double pay. All of that.
You can even wear my blazer.
You can wear my blazer. Foxhole buddy. Yeah, it was a great storyline because it was the two guys in the company. And it then managed to talk about the company, the industry, the genre. It managed to break the genre and remake the genre and do all sorts of different things with it. And it did it on WWE time, which was, you know, they hadn't done an angle like that in a long, bloody time. And I think the Firefly Funhouse recently points out just how unselfish a performer Cena can be when it comes to his character, that he is prepared in the right circumstances to absolutely slaughter the golden goose and make himself out to be a muppet if it's going to work, and that he is aware of the criticisms of his character and his performance, and he will use that as part of the meta text of what he does. And then Punk, as far as I'm concerned, is probably one of the best all-round performers the industry's had, full stop.
Yes.
Just the man knows his shit. So as much as I look back on things like Hogan Savage or Hogan Slaughter, which is a sentimental favorite, as much as I look back on Dusty and the Road Warriors, Dusty Flair, anything Sting ever did, because I'm a massive Sting mark. In terms of pure story, which is what I always go for, it's got to be that story. It's got to be the entire Punk Cena 2011 through early 2012 period. That's when wrestling was the most fun for me. Even as a longtime fan, I don't think I've ever enjoyed wrestling as much as I enjoyed that period.
Yeah. For me, that was something that sucked me back in. I remember when Raw used to be on a Wednesday afternoon, we get it on a 2-day delay. So I'm seeing stuff that happened on Monday in America saying that Punk's been suspended, all that sort of stuff. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? And then remember tuning in, you know, famous cross-legged promo at the top of the ramp in Las Vegas. He's, you know, saying stuff that you hadn't heard, you know, you didn't think he said. So that sucked me back in. I wasn't falling out of love with wrestling. I don't think I ever could. But it was a scenario where I was starting to not watch Raw and SmackDown as frequently as I did. Where before I'd be like, you know, I could miss a week. After that, had to watch everything. Stayed home from school to watch the pay-per-view, Money in the Bank, when he eventually beat Cena. So that was a big story for me. Oh, loved it. There's a reason why.
Let's talk about that match for just 1 second, where I talk about how it breaks the genre and remakes the genre. Up to that point, Cena had been doing the 5 moves of doom for I don't know how long. And you just knew that the minute the 5 moves of doom started, it was just going to go through. 3 moves in, Punk kicks him in the face and breaks the sequence. And if you watch each of their subsequent matches, Punk will break the 5 moves of doom at a different point in the sequence, and John will come back to it again. There's one of the later matches where it takes about 4.5 minutes for him to pull off the 5 moves of doom because Punk keeps countering it and John keeps going back to the sequence. That's incredible physical storytelling, especially when you then compare every single match and go, you guys have made this a bit for 12 months.
Yeah.
And it's never gotten stale.
That's a testament to how good they are as performers, because you're able to, like you said, physical storytelling. And the thing that I love about when guys like that get in the ring with each other, it's like you've definitely been in the ring before with this guy. It's not like, they tie up, they're trying to feel each other out. You do that in the first match, in my opinion, and you get a sense of, all right, these guys have never wrestled before, they're feeling each other out. It's a lot of what Angle and Shawn did at WrestleMania 21. Never worked with each other, and they were able to display that, and they were starting off with just simple wrestling moves, catch can sort of style, ground-based submission. And then when Punk and Cena, the more and more they got in the ring, the more that you knew, all right, there's a history here, because they're able to come up with counter after counter after counter. And I think that showed, all right, you guys are actually learning from each other. It's little bits like that go a long way for me to making a wrestling match seem important. And history is a huge thing. I love it when they go back and 2 guys are facing off 5 years later because of this little bit that happened 5 years ago. I love it when they do that, because it shows, all right, we respect you guys as fans enough to say, if you've been paying attention this long, if you've been tuning into us for this long, you are now rewarded for that.
Yeah, here's your payoff for it. And I mean, if you're going to run a network where you're going to be putting up all these documentaries talking about all this sort of stuff, you have to be prepared to accept that.
Yeah. And it's a lot of things.
I'll pepper that through commentary too.
Yeah. And a lot of modern wrestling, I'll even go on record of saying, specifically WWE, I think that's lost now to me. I think there's elements where they do bring that back. It seems more important when they do now. It really stands out. But before they were able to pick those things out, and it seemed like, okay, I can really get invested in all these stories rather than just 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe proves that fans can give a shit about continuity. They want to remember what happened. They want callbacks. They want moments. They want memories. They want consistency in their characters. They don't mind if their characters change over time. Tony Stark effectively did a heel turn in Civil War to make that storyline work.
Absolutely.
But that's fine, because there's still history there. We can learn as an industry a lot from that. You're seeing AEW do that. You're seeing them pick up history from the indies and bring it across with them. NXT used to be great for that. And when Finn Balor came into NXT, and he came in just as Finn Balor, but was hinting that he had another persona, those of us who knew his Japanese work knew he was talking about something to do with body paint, but then they took it one step further and made it the character of the demon. Yeah. That was great when NXT used to do stuff like that. Now, not so much.
No, and it's good in the sense of, okay, if you follow wrestling as a whole, and this is the part that I really don't like about the current product, everything, if it hasn't happened in WWE, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm someone who, as a fan of all wrestling, likes to see, again, they don't have to go on and say, oh, he did this in New Japan. I'm not expecting to put the other company over.
No.
But it's okay. This guy, the crowd's reacting to him. It's like, yeah, we do know him. He was Prince Devitt, in New Japan. Okay. So for him to carry that over, and for them to, show that, hey, there's this other side, basically take a character that he already made, a name out of, but to give their own WWE spin on it and not totally abandon it and make that seem more important, fantastic. But like you said, I think it gets lost nowadays. I think it.
Look at what happened to Adrian Neville. Look at what has happened to Sami Zayn. Look at what happened to Hideo Itami / Kenta. There was a period where the big 5 in NXT were Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, Hideo Itami, Kevin Owens. Geez, I can't remember who the 5th one they were pushing as the big 5. They were the big 5 where they were holding up their indie history.
Would have been Tyler Breeze, you reckon?
No, it wasn't, because it was people that were holding up their indie history and saying, these are the big five who are going to come in and revolutionize the next generation of sports entertainment. And the way they booked them in NXT was clearly, here is their big league sequel to their indie careers.
Right.
And then they get to the main roster. No. Gone away.
Yeah. That mystique is lost. Yeah. And that's a big thing about when I see someone like, Demi, Rhea Ripley. She is going to be fine. She'll be fine. She's virtually a homegrown talent. We can say that, she's RCW's own, but she's that young. She's that, untapped potential in her, even though she had a great showing at WrestleMania, especially in front of no people. Like, you didn't even think about that. You thought about how well she's holding her own and, doing just freaking amazing with Charlotte in there. It was really great to see, but she's going to be all right because they'll look at her as a homegrown talent. Other guys,
absolutely.
like your Hideo Itamis, like your EC3s who recently just got released, guys like that, I think they look at and go, okay, we didn't make him, so we'll have to lose everything that made him special. Okay, he's not getting over on here. It's like, well, you lost the good parts. That was what was making it successful. Now he's had to go and reinvent himself for absolutely no reason.
Here's a story I've never told publicly that I'm going to tell now. So here's an exclusive for you. Awesome. Because it doesn't matter anymore, I can now tell it safely. 2014, I was invited to the WWE Performance Center. And I was one of the first foreign journalists to ever walk through its doors. And this is back when Paige and Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn and everybody were just literally starting out with the company. Neville, now Park, back to being Park, was on his way to his first championship win against Bo Dallas at this point. So this is how early we're talking. And on that day, we were told, look, you can watch everything that's going on in the Performance Center. If you've got cameras here, you can photograph or film anything you like, except this ring over here. We're trying out a talent, can't have any footage of that talent trying out anywhere in the world. So if you guys agree to that, you can film everywhere else. Yep, no worries. Now, I was the only one in this group of journalists that was a wrestling fan. And so I'm looking at the performer in the ring, and I'm standing next to Bill DeMott. And I turned and I looked at him and said, is that who I think it is? He said, depends. Who do you think it is? I said, is that Kenta? He said, yep, that's Kenta. But don't you dare fucking say a word. I'm like, I won't. So I watched Kenta perform a WWE style match. You know how in SmackDown versus Raw games, you can do the fun thing of taking a Divas move set and put it on Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
So, you get a really bizarre looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Watching Kenta trying to wrestle a WWE style match almost physically hurt me. Because it was like watching a gourmet chef being asked to prepare McDonald's.
They're stripping away what made him special.
And they're literally telling him he's doing things, and they're saying, no, don't do that, do this instead. And he stopped starting. And, I remember thinking at the time, that just doesn't seem right. If you hire Kenta, you hire Kenta.
Mm.
I'm sure you're going to rename him and everything. That's fine. But you want him for who he is, not who you think you can make him into. And that's always really stuck with me, that moment. Like I said, I've never told that story publicly, but now that he's out of WWE, that it doesn't matter anymore, he's no longer under contract, he's back to being Kenta, I think it's safe enough to tell that story. And it just
I appreciate
Bill DeMott's not there anymore. It's really stuck with me just how wrong that felt.
Yeah. John Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose, actually touched on something like that, where they hire you because of the work that you've done outside. That they see something in you, but they take everything away from you that made you special and important. It's like, if you're going to do that, if you want someone to portray this character, obviously I'm not doing for it, hire an actor. If that's what you want, get them to follow your scripts, because that's what they do. Their job is to be themselves, who they are, who their character is.
Yeah.
Yes, there's certain guidelines, you can't do this, you can't do that, which is fair. But to say that you're not going to be this person anymore, you have to be this person, what's the point? Get someone else to do that. because obviously
Yeah.
they're not having fun doing it.
And I'm not going to shit on WWE from a great height, because obviously I have never run a multi-billion dollar global corporation involving wrestling. I'm not here to do that. But that always struck me as one of the more odd decisions that I've seen. Off the back of that, like, I'm going to give massive props to Demi for everything that she's done in wrestling, and also being able to be part of the WWE machine, because it's not for everybody. I lived backstage in it for a week and have had a couple of other opportunities to do some off the books stuff with WWE over my career. And that's been enough for me. Like, the pace at which they run, the commitment that they ask of you, the dedication that they require of you is like nothing I've ever seen before. And I mean, I work for a supposedly evil global corporation too. And it's not comparable. It's not comparable at all what WWE asks of you. It's amazing. And the people that can work there and can succeed there deserve every moment of our respect, because it is a hell of a race to run. Just insanity. I came home from that trip exhausted, and not because of jet lag, but because of overstimulation.
There are so many moving parts. And yeah, like you said, we're not here to shit on WWE. I love it. I watch it all the time. Thankfully it's still around, you know, in whatever capacity it may be. Again, a lot of people may question the methods of how they're running it at the moment, but we still have it. So we have something to escape from, and that's what wrestling has always been for me, a bit of an escape. So no matter how we can, you know, armchair quarterback, at the end of the day, we're not the person making the decisions. We're not the person with the pencil there.
Once again, I go back to the fact that I have never set foot inside those ropes for a match. So therefore, my opinion is worth 3/5 of fuck all.
Same here. Same here.
But you've had a match. You've had exactly one more match than I have. So
that was a time. That was a time. That was a great experience for me, because since we brought it up, that was a great experience for me, because I was able to have a veteran in there like Havoc. Rosenthal never took a bump at that point. Never even had a move done to him. The closest was when I did the dive to him the month previous at the Rumble, when I came in as a surprise entrant at the end. And that was a fantastic story as well, to be able to work with someone like Havoc, who'd been around the business for 20 plus years. And we knew what the end goal was going to be. We knew that, hey, we're going to lead to this match in December. These guys were coming in, I want to say June or July. And this is how we're going to get there. I think that's the best story in wrestling, to where we can go, all right, this is our end goal. Let's fill in A, B, C, D, E, you know, and so on to get there. For me, that's always been the best part. We know where we're going, how we're going to get there. For that match specifically, Havoc looked after me so well. Like, there's a spot in that match where I thought I was sandbagging him. I was dead weight, and I watch it back now. It's like, man, you could have jumped more. But he takes it in his stride. And I think with someone like that attitude, he may kill me now for saying all this, but someone with that attitude, and someone like Ben, who had never done this before, again, you find those people who just get it. Just get it. You're one of the people that get it. I think, you know, without sounding, again, not blowing smoke, I think I'm the one that get it. I think Steve's the one that gets it. Rocky, TD, all these guys, the Bastos, they just get it. If you don't think someone gets it and they're in it, but they really want to do it, what advice would you give them? That they've come in and it's just not clicking.
Listen to those who are.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, something will not click for everybody, no matter how well talented you are. Okay, I can talk on a microphone. I'm used to public speaking. I can adapt that in order to become a commentator. But I couldn't ring announce. Now, unfortunately, I had nobody to reach out to within Riot City and ask how to do this, because the only person that could have given me that advice was Josh. And the reason I was doing the job was because Josh wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I was stuffed. But if you're a performer, then you've always got somebody to reach out to. Always, because there's always someone else just within arm's reach in the locker room who you can say, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? So yeah, talk to somebody who does if you don't get it. And don't be afraid to say that, because it's better to get ribbed for being a noob than it is to keep doing the wrong thing constantly and wonder why people are getting upset with you.
Just ask questions.
Yeah, always ask questions. Hell, that's my job. That's my literal real life job, is just ask questions. And it serves me well, so other people can do it too.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Sean.
Oh, shit.
Let's just say, yeah, I know, me putting you on the spot. Let's say you were a wrestler. Any time period, any opponent. Who? One-on-one.
Yeah.
You can do a tag.
One-on-one?
Let's just go one-on-one.
One-on-one. Jake Roberts.
We had the privilege of watching him recently. Thankfully, we didn't miss out on that. It was very close now looking back that we could have missed out on that, what's going on at the moment. So we just caught him at the end right there when he came down to Adelaide for his Dirty Details tour. The knowledge he has is outstanding.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
it would be Jake, because regardless of how the match went, you would be happy with it when it finished. Mm-hmm. And when I say how it went, I mean in terms of whether you were the winner, whether you were the loser, whether you walked out with the belt, whether you went out on your back, whatever, you would be happy with it, and it would make sense, and it would tell a story.
And people would be talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be Jake. That'd be my pick.
Jake, I can't argue with that at all, mate. That's someone who's an all-rounder, not technical, not high-flying, not body, a body guy, just, again, to me, a lot like Punk. In that respect. Someone,
good
again,
comparison.
Gets it, and you believe him. You believe that this is the guy. And I think wrestling is built upon, and the ones that really succeed are the ones that are themselves with a volume turned way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some truth in that. There's also a lack of truth in that. It's not just who you are turned up to 11. Sometimes it's the antithesis of who you are turned up to 11, or it's an element of your personality turned up to 11. I mean, the person that I am when I'm and I can only talk from my own experience, but the character that I do put over within those very tightly defined parameters we talked about is not 100% who I am, nor is it really me with the volume turned up, but it's certainly aspects of who I am with the volume turned up. It is my working professional persona. It's my journalism persona turned up to 11. Yeah. So it is interesting that, someone like a Steve Austin or a Rock is clearly themselves with the volume turned way up. The Undertaker isn't Mark Calloway with the volume turned up. The Undertaker is an aspect of Mark Calloway with the volume turned up. So then you look at someone like AJ Styles, who's one of the nicest people walking the planet, one of the most God-fearing men on the planet. And when he goes heel, ain't nothing God-fearing about that man when he's heel. So that's taking a different aspect of his personality and turning it up. Yeah,
and that's something where, again, like the Undertaker and AJ, they've been in the limelight recently with the Boneyard match, which surprise you don't are not a fan of.
Not a fan.
Yeah, not a fan. I will touch on that quickly. How come? What don't you like about it?
Okay, so I've had trouble explaining this to people, and some people have nodded and accepted it straight away. Others have argued it. So I'm just going to say it the way I do. Something like the Boneyard match, you either have to 100% commit to the unreality of the situation, or you have to not do it. So Matt Hardy's Broken Universe is bizarre. There's people playing pianos, and there's groundskeepers, and it's Twin Peaks for the wrestling set. It's so weird. It's a David Lynch film with a squared circle. And they commit fully to that. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense. It can be a little crappy at times. It can be a bit B-movie. And that's fine, because we understand that we have willingly stepped into this alternate reality that is the Broken Universe. Somehow we're managing to see it, but we've stepped into another reality. The Firefly Funhouse match, same thing. Now, I don't rate the Firefly Funhouse match as a match. I rate it as a really good 12-minute promo previewing a match, and I look forward to the match that comes from it. But it was drawing on history, telling a story, psychology, things like that. The Boneyard match didn't commit, because one moment it's trying to be incredibly realistic. The next, it's got laser light emblems popping up out of nowhere and Metallica kicking in at just the right time. And it's an action movie tacked on to the end of a wrestling card. versus the Firefly Funhouse, which was a wrestling promo, a really long, extended wrestling promo. Boneyard, to me, was missing three things. It was missing Kevin Sullivan, it was missing Vader, and it was missing a midget with a bomb to blow up the speedboat. If you're watching wrestling long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know,
And I actually said that while we were watching it. I'm like, when does the midget turn up to blow up the speedboat? Because it felt so much like that. And when that thing happened, that Thunder in Paradise-y type thing with Sting and Luger and the orphans on the beach playing volleyball, we all shat on it from a great height because it was crap.
Yeah.
Now, this was much better executed, but it was still of that same school, as opposed to little AJ's hand popping up out of the grave there at the end. I mean, come on. Like, I understand anybody that wants to say they like it. Absolutely. Like what you like. It's cheese. Go for it. You know, it's a Z-grade movie. That's fine. It's a, you know, less than Van Damme action flick. Fine. Cool. Great. Doesn't mean it was good.
And that's
Firefly Funhouse was not a good match, but was a really good promo mini-movie type thing telling the story of a feud between two men. Still wasn't a good match, though.
And I think this is something that, again, wrestling is great, and a lot of people get lost in, is that you can have objective opinions, and it doesn't have to strain relationships or anything like that. It's like, oh, I hate you for liking this. No, because personally, I really love the Boneyard match. I
hate you for liking it. Oh,
I thought it was very, again, to draw the comparisons like you did with Matt Hardy's Broken Universe. Yes, you can't deny that they would have had to watch some of that to get a good idea of what they want. And if they don't admit that, then they're just bullshitting. Because he was the bloke that sort of brought that into, you know, the mainstream. Yeah, you can go back to...
Well, him and Jeremy Borash, who was one of the writers on Boneyard.
Well, there you go. Fingerprints all over it. And, okay, yeah, you can go back to those WCW early 90s with Sting and the British Bulldog on the boat and Jake Roberts
Bulldog, not Luger, that's right.
With the Dungeon of Doom, even if you want to go that far back as well, with Kevin Sullivan and oh god, all that cringe. I had no expectations going into it. I'm a huge fan of Undertaker's biker character, the American Badass. I love it. It was what, again, talking about familiarity and what got you into wrestling. He was the first bloke I saw.
There you go.
He was the first bloke I saw. I'll never forget it. Your guy, Hulk Hogan, a noose around his neck, on the back of a motorcycle, going around the arena. I put down my Thomas the Tank Engine playset and looked at that and gone, what the hell is this? This is so weird. I don't know if he was trying to kill him, but like, I didn't know what was going on. It was just, I'd never seen anything like it, and I was hooked. I was hooked from that point. So to see that character come back was cool for me. AJ, again, pardon the pun, he's phenomenal. He's one of those guys who could work around anybody, especially with Undertaker's limitations now these days. So to see them go to that with two different characters who they hadn't done it before, to me, if they would have done it with Matt Hardy again, it wouldn't have felt as special. Because I feel like they've been there, done that. I feel like Matt Hardy's been there and done that. He's going to do something with Chris Jericho and AEW, obviously, and I'll tune into that just to check out and see what's going on. But to see the Undertaker and AJ, two characters who you never thought would be in that atmosphere. Undertaker, obviously, he's been the Ministry of Darkness. He's built coffins from his lair or whatever you want to call it. To see him in an environment like that was cool. Again, there was moments where I went, oh God, I can't believe they're doing this, but I loved it. I loved it from a pure, you know me, I'm pure cheese.
That's good. That's good. I think that's wonderful. Like I say, opinions matter 3/5 of fuck all from a guy like me. I can only tell you what my opinion is. I'm really glad to hear that you're excited about it. And like, that's what's great to me. Like you say about this, it doesn't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be ones and zeros, on or off, black and white. Everyone can have an opinion. And I love hearing contrasting opinions. Again, that's what they pay me to do. They pay me to listen to contrasting opinions and report a story. So I love it. More of it.
Yeah. And I think I think that gets lost. People who, just because we disagree doesn't mean we all can't relate and understand why people like things and why people dislike things. And that's where discussions are formed. If everyone just agreed with each other, how fucking boring would that be?
And that's not just wrestling, that's life at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the world at the moment. That's the post-social media world. Just calm down and listen to what people are saying. If you disagree, but don't be a dick.
Doesn't mean you're a bad person. You know, I mean, again, because you think that Batman and Robin's a shit movie, you're a terrible person. But look, I think that's a great way to sort of wrap things up here, Sean. I want to get your opinion on a couple of things, though. I'm going to do word association. Sure. I love ending interviews like this because I think it's a summary of people that you think. Again, these are names that I haven't written down. These are just names that are going to come to my head. So, Hulk Hogan.
Problematic now, wonderful then.
Scott Morrison.
Dickhead.
Tyler Daniels.
Best dickhead I've had to put up with.
Daniel Pinellas.
Best mate.
Randy Savage.
The cream of the crop, yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for a Randy Savage impression. Punk. CM Punk.
Trailblazer.
Sting.
I was going to go straight to Icon, but that's just too easy. I'm going to say Mythic.
Steve Miller.
One good dude.
Jimmy C.
Who?
Thank you. And finally, Sean Fewster.
Who?
Again, the best answer. Thanks. It's been awesome seeing you, catching up with you again, even if it's from over a laptop. I'm sure one day we're going to reunite properly. We're going to finally have that discussion as well about Batman. We didn't touch it on today, but I want to leave people with something to think about.
Before we leave this, can I say something quickly?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you to you for setting this up. And I know this is going to be part of a series of interviews, and I hope all the residents really enjoy them because it is something that we haven't done before, and it was a great idea of yours to do this. And I think it's going to be fantastic. And I just want to say again, because I can't actually say this enough, I never intended on ending up in this industry. I always thought I'd be on the other side of the barrier. And if it wasn't for Josh Armour, if it wasn't for Todd Eastman, if it wasn't for Matt and Chris Basso, if it wasn't for the Wolf Dog, if it wasn't for Tyler Daniels, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be who I am. If it wasn't for Adrian Manera, if it wasn't for Austin Aries, I wouldn't have the profile that I have. And the number one thing when it comes to me in wrestling on the independent scene is gratitude. I am so grateful for the opportunities that all of you have given me and for the performer you have all made me into. And I just want to get that on the record somewhere because it needs to be said. That list there, they are the people who have made me who I am. And I'm just incredibly thankful for all of you.
Mate, we're thankful for you, man, because like I said, if I didn't have someone like you by my side, telling me not exactly what to do, but how to do it and giving me that advice, not just in wrestling, but in life in general. It's been wonderful, mate. It's been wonderful. We text each other very regularly about ideas. You're the first person that I spoke to about this, whether or not it was a good idea or not, before I ran it by anyone else. So to say that I value your opinion would be an understatement. So wouldn't have anyone else as my first guest. I know Steve Miller's going to be very jealous, but I'll console him, let him down gently.
You just tell him first is worst, second is best.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Never forget your first, but the second one is, just as
and also this way we got all the technical issues out of the way with somebody that wasn't going to say, hurry up. I've got somewhere to be. I actually have a life. I don't have a life, so it's fine.
That's Steve. He'd run straight to his missus. He needs to propose to, man. He can't let her go. So, mate, again, lovely speaking to you again. Hopefully this whole bunch of bullshit blows over quickly. I don't know if it's going to. Who knows? It changes day by day, hour by hour. And we get back to doing our thing. Not just in wrestling, but in life in general, catching up with toy hunts with the rest of the gang and just hanging out as well. So, mate, again, lovely to see you. Wishing the family all the best. Hope Jess is going well. Hope Laura's going well. And just take care. Take care of yourself, mate. Keep wearing your face mask because to cover up this is a blessing. Yeah. Perfect. Mate, thank you again. Take care.
Thank you, mate. See you later.
See you, mate.